Welcome. My name is Tony Boucher, and we are here today to talk about autism and employment. And what we're going to do specifically is to discuss 5 myths, 5 thinking errors that you might have that will be preventing you or someone you know who has autism from getting a job. And then once we're done talking about that, we are going to look into 5 really easy to implement tips to help you get and keep a job. So let's go ahead and get started. And the first thing I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tony. I've been working with individuals who have autism for over 26 years now, and absolutely love working with individuals on the spectrum of all ages and all personality types and all functioning levels. I have recently really begun focusing specifically on providing services for individuals who are what we refer to as higher functioning because they slip through the cracks. There are lots of services out there for folks who present autism in a classical fashion. And so my area of specialty is to focus on those individuals who have some real strong skills in some areas and then some areas where they need support and help in other areas. So let's go ahead and get started with myth number 1. And just one more thing I'd like to say is that these thinking errors and the tips that we're going to talk about today are relevant for anyone on the spectrum, regardless of if you're nonverbal or if you are verbose. So let's get started. The first myth that we need to really look at is employing people with autism is an act of charity or favor to that person. I work with a lot of people who think that if a person gets a job, that it's because that employer is doing the individual a favor. And that is simply not true. People with autism actually, the fact is that people with autism actually have really wonderful skills, sometimes very unique skills that are hard to find. And these skills are really highly desirable by employers. And when they can find someone who has those skill sets, particularly things that have to deal with, for example, very small details or very specialized, very technical aspects or things that need to be done very consistently and repeatedly the same over a course of time, then oftentimes a person with autism is the ideal person, and they are really better suited in many cases to do some specific tasks than a person without autism. So it's really important to get that thought out of your head that if I get a job, it's a favor, or if my son or daughter or client gets a job, then it's a favor, because really we need to be looking at how we can partner with companies and businesses and get them to really be seeing how hiring employees with autism is a true benefit to them. And you can't sell yourself, or if you're a job coach or a person who's advocating for an individual, you can't sell that person if you don't have that mindset that the service that the person that you're working with, or if you're the person with autism, has, that you really are offering an important skill and an important service that benefits the employer and the community. So the second myth that I want to talk about is I don't have what it takes to get a job, or my son or daughter doesn't have what it takes to get a job. A lot of times when I work with people, they come to me and they say, Tony, do you really think me, can get a job? Do you really think I could make money doing something that I'm good at? And the answer that is always given, because it's the truth, is yes. Every single person that I've ever worked with on the spectrum has some wonderful skill set or ability or gift to offer. And I think it's really, really, it's frustrating and sad to see people who go through their lives sitting in front of the television, just watching video games or staying in a workshop when there really is potential for them to have meaningful employment. So for those of you out there who have that question in mind, you know, is work for me? It doesn't matter if you're nonverbal or if you have a master's degree. There is a right fitting job out there for you. And it's really important to keep that in mind as you're thinking about employment, okay? All right. The third myth that I see a lot that really holds people back is I should start preparing for college or employment my senior year of high school. And actually, what really should be happening is you should start preparing as soon as possible. Here in the state of South Carolina, where I live, the law for individuals who have developmental disabilities and receive services in school is that eligible students must be prepared for transition services by age 13. In some states, it's older, it's 16. But I know families who begin to prepare at age 8, 9, 10, and it's never too early to start. To be looking at what you're interested in, what skills you have, what areas are you having trouble struggling with and need extra support. If you get started on thinking about employment as soon as possible, then that gives you a lot of time to practice and a lot of time to prepare instead of just being thrown out there to the wolves, so to speak. And as we know, those of us on the spectrum really do need that extra time and that extra practice and that extra ability to process. So starting as early as possible is really the key. And if you're out there and you have you have a child that's 24 or your son or daughter's 16 and you haven't started, it's okay. It's never too late to start. Just start as soon as possible. All right, the fourth myth that I see oftentimes with individuals is that I need to wait for the perfect job before I can start working. A lot of times people think, well, I want to be a writer or I want to be an IT person, and that's what I want to do, and so I'm going to wait to do that. And really, what I encourage people to do, and what we folks is we get you started on whatever is available. When I was a kid, I was babysitting when I was 10, 11, 12, 13, and those were job skills that I have been able to learn at an early age and have carried through in my life. It's the same thing for folks out there who have autism. Getting started on a good enough job for getting that work experience is really great, because every time you go through a work experience, you're getting new information, you're getting new skills. That's really going to be helpful as you move towards working in a career that you actually really is maybe closer to your ideal or what you really want to do. So the fifth myth is really focused especially on parents. One thing I hear a lot from families is the concern that their child will lose their SSI if they work. And there are actually some exceptions to this and some special rules and help that the government has set up to make sure that you don't, they're set up to encourage people to go ahead and get employment and be able to maintain those benefits when they're needed. So in 2015, an individual can earn up to $10.90 a month, And many job-related expenses can be deducted. So if you're a person who cannot drive and you need to pay a taxi to get you to your work site, the amount of money that comes out of your paycheck to pay for that taxi actually is deducted from that final amount. It's the same for job coaches, or if you would have an augmentative device that helps you with communication or some other sort of technological support that helps you get your job done, then SSI will deduct those particular expenses from the total amount that you're able to earn. There's also something called an earned income extension and a student earned income extension exclusion. Actually, it's earned income exclusion that can change the total amount loud. So if you go to the description below the Hangout, there is a posting of all the slides, what we're talking about today. I've got a little visual support for you there, and you can go ahead and put that link in your browser. And there's a link actually to the Social Security Administration.gov site where you can look those specific exclusions up and the specific rules and regulations that apply in your specific case. So that's really important, because I can't tell you, I've been in the field for 26 years, and I can't count the number of times I've heard professionals or family members say, I can't let my person, my child, my son, my daughter, or my client work because they'll lose their benefits. And that is really a misunderstanding of how things work. And we really want to get folks out there in the community, being productive and living really meaningful lives where they're contributing. And there are ways to do that and maintain benefits that are needed as well. So we are going to spend the rest of our time today together talking about some very specific things that you can do to make finding a job a little bit easier. And the way that I always preface any kind of experience where someone with autism is going to be learning new skills is to remind you that if you have autism, then one of the biggest barriers or hurdles that you need to overcome is the problem of dealing with anxiety and sensory issues. Okay, the research is really clear, and people on the spectrum have been telling us for years and years that if they are feeling anxious or scared, or if they're having some sort of a sensory issue, or many sensory issues that are causing them pain or discomfort, or even just distracting them, then they're not able to function at their best. They're not able to learn what they need to learn, and they're not able to show us all of the skills and the talents and the wonderful things that they're all about, because these fears and these sensory issues are getting in the way of that. So we're specifically going to talk today about some things to do to alleviate that. And the first thing is to, anytime you're going to be looking at job skills and focusing on ways to help individuals actually get those job skills, or actually go out there and start looking for employment or volunteer work or internships, is to rehearse. Rehearse. And oftentimes I say 7 is the magic number. If you don't have autism, chances are somebody can tell you something once or twice, and it's probably going to sink in and you're going to get it and understand it. And my experience over the years has been that when you're working with someone on the spectrum, because of the processing challenges that they have, you may need to say the same thing and teach the same material 7, 8, 9 times. And it's really a beautiful and exciting thing when, after you've really focused on, going through the same concept, whether it would be, let's say, for example, working on the skill of greeting, reaching your hand out and saying, "Hi, my name is Tony," shaking a hand. You might see that after a person practices that 7 or 8 times, that all of a sudden a light bulb goes off in their heads and they get it. And that's true of some of the littler, easier skills to achieve, and it's also true at higher level skills that require more of the abstract thinking and are a little bit more complicated. That if you don't give up on the person, you just keep practicing with them and rehearsing with them, they can get it. It's just they need more time. So let's talk about some really specific ways that you can rehearse in terms of employment. First of all, you have to be aware of what jobs are out there, whether it would be volunteer or paid work. And in order to do that, you have to know how to actually find the resources that offer that, whether it's a newspaper. I find that a lot of folks that I work with do really well learning how to search for employment online because many of our folks are very comfortable navigating the computer, and that something about the working with the computer versus face-to-face or in written medium is a lot more effective and easy sometimes for some of our folks with autism to understand. So learning where to find, how to look for potential jobs. And one hurdle you may have to overcome is the idea of, the idea that it is practice. I've worked sometimes with individuals who will say, well, I'm not ready to start looking for a job right now, so I'm not going to practice looking. But it really is the practice, even if you're not planning to go out and find a job tomorrow. Learning the process of getting online and looking at the places where the jobs, where you can find the jobs is really important. And having them really regularly do that so that it's something where they're, going on Craigslist, going on all the job search sites, and just regularly looking to see, if something might come up that's a good fit. So practice looking for jobs, practice how to look for the jobs. Looking at posted jobs is one way to look for jobs, but of course there's also, you can contact people your connections at church, in the mom and pop store down the street, family members, nonprofit organizations, daycares. These are all places that often are open and willing and receptive to having someone come in and do a specific job so that people can either get the practice or actually do paid employment. So don't forget your local connections. I regularly, in the 26 years that I've been working in autism, I always have at least one intern that is on the spectrum that works with me, and we just create the position. I say, well, I need someone who can shred the papers, or someone who can help with the filing, someone who can help sending things out, someone who can help set up training. There's always something to do, and it's a matter of really being creative and thinking about how the person that you're working with or your child can really fill a need that's already out there in the community. So let's go back to the concept of rehearsal then. So we've talked a little bit about getting practice and how to find the job. Some of the other areas that it's a really good idea to be focusing on rehearsing, practicing again and again and again, are going ahead and filling out job applications. It's a concrete visual part of the task, and so this is a really good thing to start out with actually before you work on interviews, because it plays to those visual strengths that a lot of folks who have autism have. And so it's not necessarily that you even have to send in all those job applications that you practice filling out, but even just, you know, printing them out and practicing filling them out, or getting used to doing them online. You know, a lot of job applications are online today, and there can be some complications there in terms of, you know, sometimes you run into a glitch in the system where you can't move forward, or the system doesn't work quite right if you haven't answered one of the questions. And so really practicing that is really a good thing. And just making sure the person is familiar with how that happens is really important. The really, I think the most important place where practice is essential, where rehearsal is essential, has to do with the interview process itself. This is typically the place where people who have autism have a hard time really letting themselves shine. It's a very challenging part of the process. And what I find oftentimes is that if I have a candidate who has autism and is really better qualified than some candidates who don't have autism, oftentimes those candidates without autism are better at selling themselves. They may not be able to do the job as well, but they know how to present themselves in a way that the employer says, oh yeah, I want that person. And so practicing the job interview is a really crucial part of the employment process. And one thing that I rely on often that has been really helpful is to actually have, when it's available, get those practice interviews on video. Because what you can do is you can videotape it, and then you can go back and look at it, and then you can say, oh, here's what I did well, and these are the areas I really need to to look at improving and making better. So that is the biggest area I see where practice needs to happen. And again, for our folks with autism, if you have autism or you work with someone or have a child with autism, it's not practicing that interview 2 or 3 times. It's practicing 7, 8, 9, 10 times so that you can encounter all the different kinds of potential glitches that you would have in the interview, and you can really work through how to solve the problems as they arise in terms of questions you hadn't thought of, and different approaches. You're going to want to practice having somebody who's really friendly and outgoing and bubbly as an interviewee, and then you're going to want to sit back and have somebody who kind of has a maybe more of a foreboding and not very friendly approach, so that you can get practice with different types of interviewers as well, because that makes a difference in terms of how well a person can come across in their interview. So another thing that I recommend, once you're really at the point where you're ready to start looking at going in and filling out your applications and submitting them, and being prepared to interview, is that you want to encourage employers to participate in something called a walking interview. Instead of just sitting in a room with an interviewer and just telling them what your skills are, and what you can do and what you have done, it's a really good idea to actually be in the workspace that you would actually be performing the duties, because that visual environment will actually act as a trigger for you or the person that you're working with, to help you respond more effectively to the questions, and it'll help you really shine and show what you can do. If you have the tool right there, the computer or the shredding machine or the papers, it'll really help you with your processing and help you bring out the ability to, show what you know in a way that doesn't show up in the traditional interview. And a lot of employers are already moving towards that type of an interview where you can really show your stuff, and are finding that that's actually a lot better way to illustrate what a person can or can't do. So I really encourage people to advocate for that type of an opportunity in an interview situation. So let's just review the 3 things we've gone over so far. It's lots and lots of rehearsal in all aspects of the job searching process, from the knowing how to find what jobs are available to filling out applications and doing the interview. And then encouraging employers to go ahead and participate in a walk-in interview where you can actually demonstrate what it is you do. And really, instead of just waiting for a formal or an official job, get started right away with a volunteer position or an internship with someone that is going to be understanding and compassionate and help create an environment where some skills can be practiced and refined and improved upon, so that you're not just waiting for the perfect job. So the next 2 skills or tips that I'd like to talk with you about today are going to be, we're going to do them right here. We're going to actually practice them. And they are have to do with really creating an inner state that is more relaxed and less anxious. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how deep breathing can really improve a person's state of mind, lower their anxiety, and get them in a position where they're better able to demonstrate their talents and skills and abilities in a way that that is effective. And so deep breathing is actually has been something that has been researched quite extensively lately. And we know that when a person does practice deep breathing, the cortisol levels, which that's our stress hormone, that tend to be elevated, they're really elevated for anybody who has anxiety, and for folks on the autism spectrum. That's it goes without saying that the cortisol levels are going to be really high frequently for people on the spectrum. So the deep breathing helps to lower those cortisol levels to a more stable and healthy place. And what we find is that most people are really shallow breathers. We tend to breathe in a little bit in through our neck and in our chest, but we don't take in a breath that comes from deep inside the stomach and fills the lungs completely, and then exhale that. And so that shallow breathing that we participate in, and especially folks on the autism spectrum where we do, creates this environment of really reinforcing the anxious and hesitant kind of state. So what I want you to do now is think about all the places you can do this when you get up in the morning, or you're standing in line at the grocery store, or you're putting on your makeup, or you're on your computer. You can practice this technique anywhere, anytime, any day of the week, and it will help to give you a more calm and relaxed feeling. So I really encourage folks on the spectrum, whenever I do work with them, that is especially going to be stressful, and looking for a job is a particularly stressful event for anyone, let alone someone with autism. I encourage the deep breathing. So what we're going to do right now is to just really get yourself in a relaxed position, your shoulders relaxed, and a nice, good posture, no slouching. Make sure you're up in a nice, relaxed but straight posture. And I want you to practice this with me. Okay, so we're just gonna. What we're gonna do first is just breathe out any air that you have that you've been breathing in shallowly like this. So your lungs are empty. And then I want you to breathe in through your nose until your lungs are filled, and slowly, slowly through your mouth, release the air until your lungs are empty. So we're going to practice that a couple of times, and I'll be willing to bet you're going to feel even more relaxed than you already do just by doing this. So again, breathe in through your nose until your lungs are full, and then breathe out through your mouth very, very slowly. So I'm going to demonstrate for you. You can put your hand on your stomach, and if your stomach is moving in and out a little bit, then you know that you're doing this right, because you're filling your lungs and you're breathing from down in the stomach area versus up in the lungs. So let's go ahead and do that then. So we're just going to breathe in through your nose. And breathe out through your mouth. And breathe in through your nose. And out through your mouth. In through your nose. And out through your mouth. And you should feel really relaxed right now, because that actually really does lower your cortisol levels and puts you in a much more relaxed and peaceful mental state. So, all right, now the next step that we're going to do is something else that you can practice with a person on the spectrum, or you can do it yourself. It's also been researched to have some really interesting results. And so what we're going to do now is something called a power pose. And several universities recently have done research on how power poses, and that's postures that exude a certain amount of confidence, really change the brain chemistry. They change how we are thinking and feeling about ourselves and about the situation that we're dealing with. So if you are slouched and you're hunched over and you are in this kind of an introverted posture, what that does is that actually has been shown to increase your sense of anxiety, increase your anxiousness, and increase any sort of insecure or negative thoughts that you have. So they found there are certain kinds of postures or poses that you can practice when you're in a quiet and private space that will actually help you to increase your level of confidence, increase your positive thinking about yourself, and your confidence level, so that you're able to go into a position that is of a higher stress, such as a job interview, or even just the looking for the job, in a more healthy and confident manner. So, the natural state when we're feeling anxious or insecure is to hunch down. And so what we want to do is to get ourselves out of that and keep ourselves in a really good posture with our shoulders relaxed but back. And the power poses that I'm going to show you today, there are several, but we're going to do just 2 of them today, so you can see how they work. These power poses are ones that have been researched and demonstrated that they are effective at giving us a feeling of confidence and well-being. So this is going to be one of those things that it looks silly. So I recommend it's not something you're going to do in line at the grocery store, like you can do the deep breathing. This is something that you do at home in your room, or maybe you do it in the bathroom stall before you're ready to go into the interview, or whatever stressful situation you're going into. And so the first power pose is a victory pose. And what you do is you take your hands and you actually raise them up in the air like this, and you hold your hands in that position. Hold them there for 10-15 seconds. If it feels silly, that's okay. But what this will actually do is it will chemically alter the way that you're feeling about yourself, from this kind of, I'm feeling anxious and insecure and I don't know, to I can do it. Okay, so this is a really good pose to practice. This is good for any age and any functioning level, because anybody can, who has the physical ability to actually put their arms in that position can do that. So that's our first power pose. And I recommend that you encourage, if you have a son or a daughter or somebody you work with on the spectrum, that you really encourage them to do this in the morning when they wake up, and go into the bathroom or a private place anytime they're feeling anxious, to help them elevate those good hormones and those endorphins in the body, to help them get in a good mental space for those challenging things that they have to encounter. So the first pose is victory. Just hold your hands like this. And the second pose that they found to be really effective is what they call the Wonder Woman pose. And what you do is you put your hands on your waist. And you remember, for those of you who are old enough to remember, Wonder Woman would always stand with her legs apart, out to the side, and her hands on her waist. And it's been demonstrated through research that when you actually put yourself in the Wonder Woman pose, it will help to increase your confidence level and make you get in a space where you're better able to deal with those stressful situations. So those are the two poses that I recommend that you do regularly. And one of the things that it's really important to keep in mind is when we're teaching skills and learning skills, we don't want to do it at the moment when it's the real performance. We want to have lots of dress rehearsals. So if you're going to be teaching a person to do the deep breathing, you want to do it when you're first learning how to do that in a very relaxed and calm and peaceful state, in a place where the person feels really comfortable, and really practice that at times when they're already in a good space, so that once they get into a stressful situation, such as the job interview, they're already ready and prepared to practice it, because they've already had some experience with it, and it's started to sink in to their brain a little bit, so that there's some memory attached to the actual process that you're wanting to work with. So don't teach deep breathing when a person is having an anxiety attack or is in a stressful state. Likewise, for the power positions, make sure that you're teaching these positions when a person is really feeling calm and relaxed and in a really good state of well-being, before they actually have to go in and really do something stressful. And then when they're in that stressful situation, they will have already had enough practice to make it easier for them to do that. So those are 5 tips and techniques that help make finding a job easier. And we've talked about the 5 myths, the main myths that we have that are holding people back from getting jobs. And a lot of really, what that's all about. Those myths are about our inner game, how we think about things, and how we, what we believe about ourselves really conveys when it comes to looking for a job. And people sense that, and so we really as a community of people that supports folks who have autism, we really want to start getting employers on board in terms of seeing that we are really confident in the abilities and the skills and the talents and the gifts that people with autism have to offer, we really need to start showing up at the table, letting people know that this is not a charity situation. When you're employing someone with autism, that these are, these are people who have skills for viable employment, and they have something to offer that is a tremendous benefit to employers and to communities as a result. And when we start shifting that thinking and really get employers on board, really looking at how much benefit it is to have folks on the spectrum employed, it's going to be a game changer in terms of really having the ability to get our folks employed. So I really encourage you to think really seriously about what confidence level you have in terms of knowing that what a person that you work with who has autism, or you yourself if you have autism, that you have to offer, because that's the first step towards us really creating a partnership of businesses that's really mutually beneficial. And so that's just, how we think about things is just really crucial. So once again, let's go ahead and review very quickly. So our 5 myths are that employing people with autism is an act about that. It's not. And if you are an individual with autism, a lot of times you have the myth, I don't know, I don't have what it takes, or I don't know what I need to get a job. If you have the right supports and you're not in acknowledgement of the skills and talents and abilities that you have, then you do have what it takes to get a job. You just need the right support and training and fit of a job to make it. Myth number 3 is you should start preparing for college or employment your senior year. We want you to prepare earlier than that if at all possible. 7, 8, 9, 10 is not too early. It's never too early. You don't have to wait for your perfect job. Get started volunteering to help the neighbor down the street, or the mom and pop shop that's around the corner, or the nonprofit agency that's in your town. You get started there, and then you build your resume, your experiences from that position. And especially for parents and professionals out there, don't forget that folks don't lose their SSI because they work. There are lots of accommodations for that. And so you can go ahead and check the link for the slides below, and go ahead and get the link to the SSA site to go ahead and see how your benefits will be affected by being employed. And so just to review our tips again, really crucial to rehearse every aspect of the process again and again, from knowing how to find what jobs are available, through to filling out the application, to searching for the jobs, and especially the interview process. Rehearse it again and again. And if you've done it 9, 10, 12, 15 times, it's not too many times. Make sure that you are practicing your deep breathing skills, doing the power poses, and encouraging employers to participate in a walking interview with folks so that they can really show what their skills are. So I hope you found a few tips here that'll help make finding a job easier for you or someone that you care about who has autism. And I really hope that maybe we've shared some things today that will help change your perspective about what it means to have autism and be employed. That it's really a benefit to the community and to employers to have people with autism as employees. So thank you for joining me today. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your Friday, and take care, and best of luck as you go out and find your job or help someone on the spectrum find a job. Take care.